host, Aurea McGarry, and I'm so glad you're with me here today because right next to me is this beautiful young lady who I just adore. We
Oh,
met on stage several years ago and have been close friends ever since. This woman is Melissa Carter, and once you meet her, I have a feeling you're going to be friends for life as well because she is such a familiar voice here in Atlanta because she was a member of two top morning shows, one of them being The Burt Show, but also currently she's a columnist for both the Georgia Voice and Huffington Post. But the reason I met her on stage one day was because she was talking about her kidney transplant when I was talking about my cancer surviving. So we're both sisters thrivers. Melissa, welcome to the show.
hi, honey. Well, I guess now in the middle of this pandemic, we're medically fragile sisters, is how we would be described, right?
You're right. I didn't even
But
think of
fragile's
that.
not the right word. But that's what they're saying. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, well, first of all, thank you for that wonderful, sweet introduction. And
Oh, I mean it.
as you said, well, now you can't see her. My dog just jumped up on the couch as you were doing the introduction. I thought maybe you were talking about my dog, but I want to say first of all that welcome into my home. Not many people into my home. I've been in this house for 5 months, so I just moved here right before all this happened, which is good. So it's given me time to decorate and stuff. But also, I think one of the things, we're talking about success, but I decided to just do it like I would in my home. So here I am, sans makeup, sans, hairstylist, because I think that women also have to be comfortable with who they are
Mm.
underneath all these things in order to be successful. So I would say that that's probably my first tip. And it took me a while to be comfortable enough to show people myself without any kind of covering, I guess is the right word.
Well, you're so brave to do that. You just made a good point. I should do a show like that as well because I get a little more subconscious that, okay, just another week or two and this hair is not going to be looking as good. And I do love I've always been a tomboy. It's all about the
No,
own
right.
because I've been bald twice. So, and when I won my
That's
Emmy,
right. You
it
know
was
it.
yeah, it was right after that, and I didn't feel pretty, and I was really much more overweight from the steroids, and so I've had all those times, and still do, and success is still there, and love is still there. And it's nothing to do with all this outside stuff at all. So thank you for doing that and showing us again that here we are. Welcome to the real world. Amen. So with that, Melissa, we
Well,
want to talk.
I think for women, yeah, I think yeah. No, I was saying that one of the things that I wanted to add to that is I think for women especially, beauty is such an important thing that we're taught from the beginning. So I think women are taught to be beautiful from the start, then be smart after that. And I think for a lot of women, beauty is important as if it's used as a tool, but not as a weapon on yourself. And so I think for a long time, like I've got naturally dark circles that I've had since I was 7 years old. And that was the main thing I never wanted people to see because I didn't want people to think I was sick all the time or they had something to do with my kidney transplant. No, I inherited these circles and it took me a while just to let people see them. And again, it's one of those things where if you can get in front of the mirror and not judge yourself, then you have already made a huge leap in letting go of your past.
Wow, Melissa, how powerful. Right out of the gate, just showing women that, here we are. And you're right. I never even really thought about it so upfront that we are taught in the beginning, it's beauty first, then brains. And we keep talking about we are everything, but you're right. That was always the standard and nobody meant it to be. It's just kind of what happened and guess it evolved.
Yeah. So, and we contribute to it, which I understand. Like I said, beauty. Look. I got all my makeup counter upstairs, and all my pretty clothes upstairs, and all my hair products upstairs. I think that again, if you use it where you're the powerful one using those tools, then you're doing a great job. If you're doing it because you're worried what somebody else is going to think about you, then I think you need to reevaluate how you're using that stuff.
That's a great point. It is all by choice for sure. And that makes a difference. And I love what Alicia Keys started. Probably maybe it's almost been 2 years now where it was the no makeup and how beautiful, of course, she looks. I look like her with no makeup. I have no problem either. But she just, take off the lashes, take off the makeup. And I think she
That's
kind of
right.
stayed that way.
That's not much of a struggle for her.
I know. So maybe I should be making that point too, because I
Yeah,
struggle with that
yeah.
all the time. But for myself, I mean, I'm never thin enough. I'm never anything enough. But I get on the screen anyway. I do the TV anyway, even though subconsciously I'm like, gosh, I wish I was 20 pounds thinner. I fight that thought on a daily basis. And I constantly get out and do what I'm going to do because it's not about my weight. And I have to stop thinking that nobody cares if I'm size 2 or if I'm size 20. That's ridiculous. So I put that upon myself. And here I am on the show. And I don't care if it's a fat day or thin day for me because I'm healthy. I'm alive. I'm cancer free. We're COVID free. There's so much worse in this world to worry about than what our hair looks like or what the scale says today. So thank you for bringing that to the forefront again.
Right.
Very much needed. Right, for sure.
Exactly.
So on that note, that's all we need to do.
Well, you're welcome.
Success talk's never been better. But seriously, we're good now. Bye. You have done such great things, seriously, in your career. So let's talk first about your accomplishments in the radio industry, because many people watching are thinking, wow, what an accomplishment to get to that peak in your business. So tell us a little bit about how that happened.
Well, let's see. I went to school to be in television. So it's funny you talk about television. When I was a kid, I would pretend to be on the radio, but I also was a big fan of the people on television. So I think in the beginning, I thought television was much sexier than radio. So I wanted to get into that, and I got my college degree at the University of Tennessee in broadcast news, television broadcast news. And then I got to Atlanta, and I moved here after getting a job at Turner, but I was a telemarketer and then a secretary at Turner. So I was taking whatever I could get at Turner Broadcasting. And that's the reason I moved to Atlanta. And I never could get a job on TV. And I learned the competition, and I learned, about how I didn't have the experience that other people had. And I kind of gave into those pressures and gave into that insecurity. And then fortunately, my natural talent of radio emerged. I got the job at 99X, for those who have been in Atlanta for a long time, simply by happened to run into and get to know one of the DJs. So it was through networking that I got the job at 99X, and it was networking that I got the job at Q100, and it was networking I got the job at B98.5. So once I got the job in radio, I can honestly say that I have never had to search for a job like I did when I tried to do television. So the point of that is, if you're doing what you enjoy and you're focusing on your strengths, and my strength is more communicating, radio allows you to be more conversational. And so I learned that conversation was my better way of communicating. And so if you focus on your strengths and know what you love and you're good at, you get to know people. I mean, Aurea is a prime example of knowing everybody on the planet. And it was through networking that she and I got to know each other, and have since helped each other meet other people. But networking, I mean, you hear that when you're young and you don't understand it. And it's hard to do when you're young and starting out, but it truly is, in hindsight, the reason that my career was so successful is that I never burned a bridge. I never, even if I was frustrated with someone or a colleague, I never assumed I would never see them again. I never treated them like, oh, well, screw you and whatever, because more than likely you're going to see them again or ask a job from them again. Or, it was, those, after 99X, the jobs at Q100 and the job at B98.5 came from references from other people. And so you start the ball rolling like a snowball. You just got to pack that snowball up with your talent, and then you can roll it down the hill, and it will naturally on its own become this massive behemoth ball, without you having to worry about it. But I think the goal is, that again, goes back to the makeup thing. Instead of worrying about what other people think, hone your own skills and follow your instinct, and things can naturally happen for you if you let them. And I think that was a big lesson for me.
That is a good point that you say if you let them. And I love that you're talking about, going out there and making it happen. And your goal may be fixed on one thing, but you end up in a parallel universe, which you're going for TV. You're saying it's harder, but you ended up in radio. And that I didn't know what you just said was
Correct.
a good point that radio is more giving to conversation. So I think that was interesting. I never thought of that before because I watch so much talk TV
Yeah.
and I don't think about that the radio really does give into more conversation and back and forth. So that was interesting. And I think we've got a little bit of a delay.
Well,
But
Aurea, you and everybody that knows you knows. Yes, sorry about that.
that's okay.
Well, I was going to say that, Aurea, because you've done television and you've done, a lot of TV work. So for those who have never done television or radio, when you do television, you have to worry about how you look. You have to worry about where you're standing. I mean, the visual is all on your body as well as what you're saying. And you also have an earpiece in where somebody's talking to you and telling you what to say as well. So you have so many things going on in your brain at once, and trying to organize all those thoughts and all those directions and still look good on camera and still be sitting with your posture up and still have a smile on your face and being expressed. So when you do television work, it's multitasking
Really is.
constantly. With radio, you don't have the camera on you, so you're still multitasking, but there's a little bit more of a relaxing environment because you don't have to worry about how you look. You don't have to worry about any props that you have. All you have to worry, the only thing in radio that you have is your voice. And that is the most important thing. So you do what you have to do to make that comfortable. So in radio, a lot of times people will be standing up. They may be sitting on the floor. They may be laying on their back. It's whatever makes them comfortable to make that voice project and make them sound like they're really into what they're saying is the magic of radio. And because radio does that, that's why you can have conversations back and forth, where in television it's just more like a stage show where you're doing a lot of things at once.
You're right, and it's interesting because of my voice and I'm taking out my vocal cord nerve, that I'm very self-conscious of how my voice sounds now because it's so much more raspy and sounds like a chicken, that I almost want people to be able to see me so they get their mind off my voice, which has been tampered with because of the cancer. And I feel like if they only heard my voice, they might tune out because they're not knowing the whole picture. So, but I've been on so many radio shows and it hasn't happened. Again, it's another thing I've put on myself, that my voice isn't pleasing enough the way it is
Right.
without that nerve. And I should get over that. I do podcasts with people, but when I host, I'm still a visual person. I still love eye contact and I just love to see people too. But I listen to radio all the time. So you're right. Radio is a great place, especially in the car. In Atlanta, we know we spend half our life in the car and you're not watching TV, or you shouldn't be watching TV while you're driving, but we're listening to books and we're listening to talk shows. So it's very, very
Right.
relevant and very
That's
needed.
right.
And that's why podcasts are so successful
Right.
too, because we need more stimulation in the car listening
Well, and
instead of just music.
right. Well, mhm, exactly. Well, and also, I mean, it goes back to there's a place for everybody. So I think that if you, it's like Araya said, if you first of all, you consider yourself a puzzle piece. All right. Think of yourself as one puzzle piece in a huge puzzle, right?
Mhm.
And you think that you want to be the puzzle piece that's kind of square, but it ends up your talent is the puzzle piece that has a hook on it. And, same for me. I was disappointed and felt like a failure that I didn't get a job at Turner Broadcasting on one of the networks. But I have had a career that other people would envy in radio, and I'm very appreciative of that. And again, hindsight's 2020. But I realized I'm not the square puzzle piece. I was the one with the hook in it. And so if you just accept the path that is being given to you, because a lot of times people try to control that path too much. But if you just open yourself up to the path that lays in front of you, you'll find that you will find your way and you will have a better sense of who you are, apart from what your mom said you should be, your dad said you should be, your husband or your wife said you should be, your kids think you should be, all these things that you're trying to please everybody. I think that, just think about, you may be a different puzzle piece, and that's okay, because once you find where you fit, like I said in radio, it was I mean, I had my career for nearly 30 years and it was the smoothest ride. I had more trouble trying to get, the 2 years I tried to get a job in television was much harder than the 30 years of working in radio. So it's just a matter of relaxing into yourself and knowing what you're good at.
And at least, though, you were in a parallel universe, should I say, that you enjoyed. So it wasn't like you were trying to get in TV, then you ended up being something like completely different. You're still in the industry. You still knew you had a voice and you wanted to use it, but you just didn't know the beauty of radio until it was introduced to you. So I think that's great. I like those little switches and little pivots we have to make, but you're still in your genius because you are a master communicator. If people could just hear your humor and your storytelling. I keep telling you, I think, have you written your book yet? Because just your blogs alone are hysterical. So if you're still doing your blogs, let us know where that is. Because I don't like to read them, but I love reading everything that you do. You're amazing.
Oh, you're sweet. Well, and that's something about this pandemic. I think that if people are not happy with their profession, well, look, if you're not happy with anything in this pandemic, my feeling about the pandemic is if you're not getting it done in the pandemic, you're not going to get it done. And secondly, if you're not happy with something in your life during the pandemic, you have to realize you built your life. So if you don't like your house, you built that house. If you don't like your husband, well, you chose your husband. If you don't like your kids, guess what? You chose to have those kids. And so I think that when people start complaining about being at home, well, that's a great opportunity for you to see what you could change or adjust or what's not fulfilling for you. The other thing is, think about the time that you're not working if you still have a job, or you're not homeschooling if you're with young kids, and what is it you're doing in your spare time? So that's the other thing to think about. Like if you're sketching, if you're doing puzzles, if you're, whatever it is you're doing, you should look at that as a sign for what kind of career you need to go into. Now, if you're doing a puzzle and love to do puzzles, you're like, well, Melissa, how can I do puzzles for a living? But think about the fact that you might like putting pieces together, like you like building upon things. It could be more of an engineering thing. It could be a guide, an organizer. Like think about where you are and what you like to instinctively do, because truly I believe that when we were kids, whatever we played when we were little kids was a good indication of what we wanted to do for our life. So if you pretended to be in front of the mirror with a microphone with your brush, maybe you don't have a great voice, but at least you want to be an entertainer. So you want to be in front of people. You wanted people to see you. Like I said, even though I chose television as a career, I played DJ on my brother's cassette player in elementary school, and I ended up being a DJ in my life. So I just think that this is a great way and a great time, instead of worrying about what's going on outside, to start worrying about what's going on inside and maybe finding something new that could be your passion the rest of your life.
That's so smart. I've always told my clients to find out what you wanted to be when somebody asked you when you were a little kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you told them exactly what that was before the world got to you and said, oh, you can't do that. You're not good enough in school, or you're not this enough or that enough or whatever enough, or you'll never do that. The competition's too great. And it's that moment that you didn't know you shouldn't or couldn't, or it might be hard, and you just said it. And so that's key. I'm glad you're on the same page. That's inside us, that we could be good at that, the right training or the right opportunities. But I love getting better at what we already know we love to do, instead of trying to do something we know we don't like because we have to, because we feel we need to get better at the things we're bad at.
Well, and I like how you said, before life got to you, because, I have a son, we call him Mr. Carter in public, because I don't give his name out, in public. I try to protect him, but, he's 5 years old, and he's homeschooled, by me and his other mother. And so we've been homeschooling him during the pandemic. And one of the things that we've talked about is like getting to see the things in school already that he is really into, and the things that he is struggling with. And I keep telling, Katie Joe, that that's what he's going to be good. I mean, that's what he's going to enjoy. That's a facet of what he's going to do for the rest of his life. So let's say it's math that he's so into. Well, guess what? Math is going to be a part of his future somehow.
Right.
And again, it may not be traditional. like people may see things and think, oh, well, if I'm not good at singing, then how can I be in front of people? Well, there's so many ways to be entertain people. If
That
you're
there is.
Yes, I mean, so it's just don't limit yourself. And I think that for a lot of us who, may have had family members or mentors that kind of uh, fussed at us more than encouraged us as kids. It's like Aurea, you just said. A lot of people focus on let's fix these weaknesses and ignore the strengths,
Mhm.
because the strengths are taking care of themselves. The weaknesses need to be fixed, and that's the opposite way of thinking. I mean, they realize now, especially they're doing studies on it with children, that weaknesses can only get they'll always be weaknesses. They'll just be stronger weaknesses, but you can't ever get these all the way up here.
Right.
But these strengths can go as far as they need to go. So I think that when your kid brings home a report card and it has 3 A's, a B, and an F on it, you should look at the 3 A's before you look at the F. And a lot
Thank
of people
you.
are trained to look at the F first.
Thank
And
you.
so,
Yes.
and I think you should do that with yourself too. And realize your success is limitless if you focus on your strengths. And
Amen.
that's the key. That's the key to success. Absolutely the key to
You just
success.
hit the nail on the head. That's what I've been saying for so long because it is so true. Once I found my stride, I didn't even realize that speaking was a talent or was something you could monetize on until I lost my voice. Then I ended up being a professional speaker. I mean, go figure. You lose something you're not even supposed to have, and then you get it, and that's what you end up making your living on, inspiring and talking, speaking, TV. That all came after they took out my vocal cord nerve and told me I could not do it. And I
Right,
did it
right.
anyway. So I just
Well, I take it
want to
that
do it,
when
just find a
Aurea
way.
I think when Aurea gets told that she can't do something, I have a feeling that's more motivating than it is defeating.
Possibly. Anyway, speaking of puzzles, I know the big topic in this pandemic is if I have to do another puzzle with my mom, I'm going to jump off the roof. And I love puzzles. And you know what I got turned on to? Happens to be here for the first time. My daughter bought these for Mother's Day. I do 3D puzzles now. I actually did
Ooh,
this the other night, just put it
that
together.
is so
And
cute.
I love it. 3D puzzles are like my new jam.
Look at you. I love that. That's beautiful. That's not like your traditional puzzle. See, I was as soon as you said you love puzzles, I'm like, I don't like puzzles, but I like that.
I guess it's maybe still the creative side of me because I'm not, like I said, a big, I'm not analytical at all. But when it comes to art, I love to draw, and the puzzle thing just kind of is part of that creative part, I would think, versus the analytical part. And I
Well,
just,
I tell you what I've done. I tell you what I've done that I admire that you finished it. So what I learned, and again, it's an opportunity. I think the pandemic is an opportunity, and I've learned that I struggle with follow through on projects. So the fact that you
mm,
finished that. Normally, what would happen with me is I would get everything but like one wing, that Snoopy plane, and then I'd say, okay, I'll finish this later, and then it stays in a bag. So when I unpacked, this pandemic's allowed me to unpack, some of the boxes because I've only been here a few months. I found a bunch of cross stitch that's been in a bag for probably 20 years.
I
I
hate those.
found like painting things that have been in the like paint by number. So I have vowed to finish every one of those projects and also learn what I should never buy again and what
Mhm.
I do enjoy and should buy again. But it's been the biggest lesson for me in this pandemic is learning that I can't jump from one project to another until I finish the first task.
Mhm.
And what happens to me is that I will not finish the first task. I will jump, leapfrog to different things, and then I will look back on these, unfinished, and then I get overwhelmed, and then I feel
Yeah.
like a failure, and then I feel like I didn't do something correct. So it goes into that downward spiral of self-deprecation, and I'm like,
We're
no,
good at
I'm
that as
gonna,
women. Well,
yes. So
let me give you a little hope though on that.
okay,
Because I finished this because I ended up once I started, I loved it. And I loved what I was doing. Snoopy and these bunnies. I ended up loving it. But I have many things, like you said, cross stitch. Ooh, nails on a chalkboard. I have had those. I will never finish those. So there's lots of those things that I have never finished, never will. And I think look at it as you tried it, don't like it. You don't need to
that's
finish
true.
it. Don't
That
waste
is
your time
true.
doing
That
something you
is
didn't
true.
like it. Put it
So
away.
see now
Do it
that's freedom right there. That's very good. So I shouldn't punish myself. I had
Mhm.
somebody else tell me that about books that don't
Yeah,
feel guilty for not finishing a book because
I'm
she's
good.
like, if the author didn't get you hooked
Mm-mm.
and kept you going, then that's the author's fault, not your fault for not finishing it. So okay,
Absolutely.
I will take that advice.
Yeah.
See? We
Absolutely.
always have, there's always room to learn, Araya.
I know school is never out for the student, always the
That's
student.
right.
School is never out for the teacher. There you go. Always learning something for
Well,
sure. But yeah, to do what you
well, when I was
can.
when I was a senior in high school, I thought, school was never out for the students. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
I finally graduated. So that's good.
Yeah, yeah. School of life, school of life. Well, Melissa, you've been so thought provoking at this. I love it. We started right out of the gate. I absolutely love it. And before we close, could you I want to give you a little bit of just freedom reign
Sure.
to just share with us any insights. You deal with a wonderful community here in Atlanta. You deal with women we feel so many of the times that we have things against us. And let's open up the conversation, enlighten us as business owners, maybe women that have just lost jobs or going back out into the world now in a different place.
Hmm.
Give us some of your Melissa
Right.
Carter words of wisdom to think about.
I think that women need to learn to be their own best friends. So, one thing that women love to do is be part of a community, which I think we're very good at. That we're not only what I love about women is that we create communities instantaneously. So
Mhm.
we don't have to know each other to pick up a conversation and talk for 2 hours. Like, I do think for some men, it's kind of hard for them and awkward for them sometimes to talk with strangers at a depth level. Guys can talk, they can do dad jokes and puns and they can talk about golf and all that. But I think that women have the ability to talk soul to soul as soon
Ooh,
as we meet each other.
I like
And we pride ourselves on being a good friend, a good best friend, but we rarely value being our own best friend. And I think that, like when you said, when you're in front of the mirror and think, oh, or in front of the camera, I need to lose 20 more pounds. Well, that's common. Most women, because we feel judged.
Mhm.
And I think that's where that inner voice has to become your best friend. And like I said, not your mother, if she was, whoever the critic in your life was, and I don't want to pick on moms because my mother was not that way. So
Mine either.
Millie Pete she wasn't that way. But I know friends whose mothers are that way or grandmothers are that way. And I pick out the women especially because women shouldn't do that to each other,
Mhm.
and especially when it's your own family or you're the mentor of somebody. So I think be your own best friend first. Listen to yourself and what you say. Allow yourself to say something deprecating. Say, oh, I just, like for me, oh, I wish I didn't have these dark circles. I'd be so much prettier. And then the best friend in your mind comes up and says, Melissa, you're beautiful just the way you are. What would you say to your best friend who said the same thing?
Mhm.
Why do you say anything less to yourself? And so if you're able to give to somebody else that much, why are you not giving that to yourself? And you are worthy. And then the second point I have on that is you adapt to your environment. I feel that in so many cases with people who feel oppressed for some reason, whether it's race, whether it's sexual identity, whether it's gender, whatever it is, you receive so many messages that you're not good enough. And I think that it's up to the person who is being oppressed to have to figure out that they're not going to listen to those messages anymore, because that's what keeps you down. That's what keeps you down. Women believe it. You start believing the hype that you're not good enough, that you don't deserve to make the same money as men. You don't deserve to have those, same positions as men. I can tell you that there have been jobs where I found out that I was making far less than my male counterparts, and I left the job. When I couldn't get the money, I left the job. And and that happened in radio. And I think that you have to again be your own best friend and also be your biggest advocate and believe in yourself. And if you aren't willing to do that for yourself, then you are a product of your environment. If you don't believe in you and nobody that you've chosen in your life believes in you, then you are going to not believe in yourself. And that's why I brought up choices earlier. You chose your home, you chose your husband, you chose to have your kids, you chose the way you raised your kids, everything that you feel the world did to you chose. You had a hand in doing that, whether you consciously understood that or not. And I think that once you take that power into your own hands and realize I am in charge of my life, seriously, you are in charge of your life. If you decide, like Aurea, who is a ray of sunshine, she always is happy with everybody she sees. She's always upbeat. She always wants to include everybody. When we were setting up this interview, she networked me with somebody else in the process. Like, she's always just working, making sure
Yeah.
that people come together.
Mhm.
People are attracted to Aurea because of that, because you want to be around somebody that makes you feel better. And I think that if you look at yourself in your life, if you're not doing that, if you're somebody who's critical of other people all the time, you're bossy, you're unhappy, look at yourself, talk to yourself better, love yourself more. You'll start loving the people around you more. You'll start loving life more. You'll start loving your job more. And if you don't love your job, you'll be aware enough to leave your job like I did. You are in control. And I can't reiterate that to women enough. You are the source of your life.
Right.
And if you don't take that, if you don't rein that in, you will always be unhappy. Your husband is never going to make you happy. Your children are never going to make you happy. Your job is never going to make you happy. You got to realize you are spinning your wheels for nothing. If you're happy, then the rest of it will fall into place. And that's what I would preach over and over and over again, because women so many times are like, I can't, I do so much and it's never enough. Well, guess what? Because you have the wrong attitude about it. So that's my words of wisdom is women, you snap out of it. You've got to take the reins. Absolutely.
Oh, tell us what you really think.
I know. And that's one thing, you tease about how I start the conversation with wisdom and stuff. Let me tell you, my friends are so bored with my monologues. Like, they're just like, okay, Melissa, that's
I'm waiting
great.
for your book. You gotta write a book. Oh, you're a great writer. Speaking of writing, I want you to tell us how the viewers can get a hold of you, because you write for the Georgia Boys and for the Huffington Post, and you are a really inspiring and creative writer.
You're sweet. Thank you.
I really mean it. Like I said, it takes a lot for me to be interested in reading, because I always wait for the movie to come out.
Right.
But your writing brings it to life for me, which makes reading enjoyable. So tell us where we can find you.
Well, I write like I taught. So the writing, I will tell you, it's just telling stories. And I think that you get bogged down in the details of the writing and you mess yourself up. You don't have to sound like the smartest person in the room when you're writing. Just write your own voice, right? So the best way is my email address is askmelissacarter@gmail.com. It's that easy. You can ask me anything. AskMelissaCarter@gmail.com. And then you can always go on Instagram or Facebook. It's Melissa Carter ATL. So you have to add the Atlanta to that, the ATL, because some other Melissa Carter had those, things. Right. So yes, but ask melissacarter@gmail.com. Very easy. And then I can send you links to articles. I can, send you information about anything you want.
I thought it was great. You were saying, ask Melissa Carter. I was wondering, is that an article that you write, that kind of like a Dear Abby article?
No, I wish I should. I should start that. It was, again, Melissa Carter tends to be more of a common name than you think. So I had to come up with, and I didn't want to put a bunch of numbers behind it because I would forget what the numbers were, and before I was able to tell other people. So I just put Ask Melissa Carter, because I figure if you're going to email me, you're going to ask me something. So that makes it easy. So maybe I'll start a column. Ask Melissa Carter. If you need dating advice, I'm not sure. I'm single right now, so I don't know if I'm But here's a funny story we'll end with. So my son last night said he saw some cartoon where a boy had given a girl flowers, and he said, "Mama, you need to give your girl flowers." And I said, "Well, honey, I don't have a girl." And he said, "Well, you need to get one." And that was the end of the conversation. So just letting you know that my son is now even saying, "Mama, let's." I need somebody else in here. So
nothing like having him say, "Go find another girl" when you're in a quarantine.
Exactly. Yes. The timing. Yes, the timing, son, is a little off, but we'll see. Eventually.
Without the internet, it's okay. Imagine the quarantine without the internet. Is all I gotta say.
Exactly.
A bad day. Think of not having this at all.
There is nothing to me. There is nothing to complain about. It's springtime. This would have been a lot worse in the winter if we had to do this in the winter time. We get where our groceries are safe, our water is safe. Our internet is safe. I have nothing to complain about. I'm happy to sit at home and do what I got to do.
Absolutely, and this whole thing we're able to, Facebook people, FaceTime people, and do all the Zoom is great. Liz, I want to make one more closing point. When you said something so profound, I hope everybody really gets this without taking it like offensive, but because I've been there and done that. So Melissa and I are talking from the heart and done wrong choices, bad choices, and realize, hey, maybe if I don't do that choice again, my life will turn out a little better. When I was being abused, I finally made the choice to escape domestic violence. And it was a choice I had to make, that I deserved better. I didn't deserve this life where I was being screamed at and yelled at and cursed at. Even though I wasn't being beaten physically every day, I was being beaten down every day, all day long, all the time. And that's a terrible place to be. And I could have said, imagine if I was in quarantine now, still married into that. This would be a whole different quarantine in life for me. And I want women especially to know that when I left, I chose never to make that type of choice again. My only non-negotiable when I went back into the dating world. This is back, I was in my young 30s. My older daughter was just like 5 at the time. I said, I'd rather just be alone with me and my daughter than ever be screamed at or yelled at again. So my one non-negotiable quality I wanted in the next man, if there ever was a next man, was they make me laugh and they don't make me cry.
Yeah, that's a great one. And you found it.
Yes, I did. 25
Yeah.
years next year, married.
Yeah,
So very
congratulations. He's
excited
a
because
wonderful guy.
he did. And here's what I looked at too. I looked at how the person treated other people, how they treated the waitresses, the servers, the people around us, the maitre d's. Because sure, everybody can put on a fun front when you're dating them, whoever it is, and make you feel special for a moment. But it's how they're treating the people around you that they're not trying to impress. And
Right.
that made a difference for me. If a
I'm
guy was
listening to you. I just know we're about to be interrupted, but that's
oh,
okay.
that's wonderful. But hey, I love it. Hey, welcome to quarantine.
Hey, what's
It's
up?
good. Hey, family time.
You want to show them what you're playing?
Yeah, please show us.
Look at my plane.
Oh my goodness, what is that?
Is that like a train? Was
Yeah,
it?
it's Thomas.
It's Thomas the Tank Engine
We
Train
didn't
Gang.
have things like that when I was a kid.
Yes, baby. I'm going to finish up with Aurea, and then how about you sit right here? Sit right there.
After you're done with
Yeah.
Aurea, I just want to tell you something.
You can tell me anything. So I tell him he can tell me anything.
Okay, good. We're listening.
Yeah, we're listening. Go ahead.
Sometime,
Put the microphone closer.
You can buy Emily if you want to.
Oh, I see. So here's the thing. So I teach him that I don't just buy the extensions or the additions on these apps, that he has to earn the money. So I'm trying to teach him about money. That's another thing, ladies. Money is something that we weren't taught very well, and we need to improve our relationship with money. I think our relationship with money, sometimes we feel guilty for making money when you should never feel guilty for making money. And I know I need to end, but that's one of the things I try to instill in him is I want his relationship with money to be good from the start, and that he can get Emily here if he wants to, as long as he does the job to get it done. And also to your point about the focus that you had to get out of that situation, one last thought I had is if women are watching and they're unhappy, the number one thing you need to do right now is see this as a story you're going to tell in the future for the reason you changed your life. Mm-hmm. So think of yourself, visualize yourself in the future doing exactly what you want to do with whoever it is you want to be with, and think to yourself, what I'm going through right now that I just woke up from crying last night, or I'm going to cry myself to sleep tonight. This is the story I'm going to tell in 10 years and 20 years of why I changed what I did. It's never too late. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can always make change.
Amen. That's a perfect place to leave this interview on. Thank you, Melissa, so
You're welcome.
much.
Thank you very much.
Empowering and profound and just thought-provoking for everyone to be thinking about the real deal. This is it. So my motto in this show is to help everybody out there, especially our women entrepreneur sisters, to go ahead and earn more so you can live more, so you can give back more.
Exactly.
All about.
All right. Thank you, Aurea. That was so much fun.
Oh, so much fun. Thank you. Thank you. We will see you on the other side. Thank you again. Can't wait till we get let out of quarantine and we can give our big hugs again. Because I miss hugs more than anything. So
I do too. All right, love. Mwah.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.